Hey guys, welcome back to Geared Forwards. My name's Paul, and today we're going to be taking a look at another pry bar. This is again by Olight, or I guess technically this falls under their O-Knife branding, which is the brand that they of course put their pocket knives under. This is a little unusual to me, as the O-Pry I think just fell under the Olight parent branding. But I was a big fan of the, and am still a big fan of the O-Pry. So I wanted to pick this up in one of the sales, get my hands on it to see what it's like, and actually I do think it's very compelling. In some ways it has some downsides, but we're going to jump on in and take a look at it now. First of all, with the packaging, just standard Olight box packaging, very blank back, but you do have that nice half logo kind of shadowed on the back. And then it just tells us titanium, doesn't tell us what grade or anything like that. And it says that the weight is about 50 grams or 1.76 ounces. We'll find out. I am using a service with a little bit of give to it, so don't take the cheapest scale I could find on Amazon with 100% accuracy. Let's go ahead and jump into the weight measurement though. So yeah, I'm coming in at like about 1.3, which is significantly low, and we're going to put that just on the surface I'm using today. It has a little bit of give, a little bit of unevenness to it. I'm not currently using the table that I normally use. So we'll take the box at its 1.76 or 50 gram weight. It does include this short little bit of OD green paracord for you to make a lanyard out of. This is exactly the same as the O-Pry came with, so free paracord I guess. I wouldn't put it on it myself. And taking a look closer at the features of the pry bar, so this is titanium overall, but we do have this copper plate inserted here. Now this will patina over time. I've had this for a few weeks now, and it's not really patinaing that much, but you know, with time I expect that will patina quite dramatically. This did come in a vacuum sealed packet within the box, so no pre-patinaing, it's all down to you. We do have some cutouts for utilization. We have a 1/4 bit hole here, which I assume they're going to assume you put your lanyard onto, which you can do, but obviously if you're landed on that, you're giving it up as a 1/4 inch wrench. And then we have an adjustable wrench here with very fixed grades to it, rather than the more gradual version of the wrench that we saw on the O-Pry. So we just drop down there. Overall, this is a very different kind of tool, I think, to the O-Pry, which I'll just pop up here, and we'll be going into a bit of a comparison in a second. We do have some ruler markings etched into the top. As you can see, we do have a little bit of almost a choil rounded out here for ergonomic purposes, and that does feel quite nice. Bottle opening notch here, and then the tip itself. It does come down to a pretty good tip in my opinion. These corners are not fully rounded off, but they're not particularly sharp either. And then we have the clip with the branding. This is a bit much branding wise, in my opinion, especially since it's just laser etching. It's not interesting. But I do like that they've given you an entirely clean presentation side, literally a presentation side here with that little inlay. So I don't mind that too much, but I would rather not be advertising that on the pocket clip, personally. The pocket clip itself works just fine. Nice spring to it. It does look a little cheap in comparison to the O-Pry's, but it does its job, even if it does leave quite a considerable amount. Focus, there we go. Sticking out of your pocket. I will just a quick disclaimer here. I've not used this wrench. I've never used one of those wrenches, and I'll come back to why I don't particularly mind those wrenches being installed, well, cut out rather. So to compare this to the O-Pry, the original one, So first of all, obviously we do not have this internal bit storage and we don't have an inline driver, nor do we have these cut out here for 8mm bits so that you could use this as a wrench. And whereas we had more of a sculpted clip here with the little smiley face and the Olight logo engraved in there, this clip is very branding busy, but I like the smiley face and I like that it's sculpted, so I didn't really mind it too much. Clean front on this one again, just like on the Otacle, but these are very different purpose tools in my opinion. You are sacrificing the bit driving and the wrench itself. Like, if I was going to use one of these as a wrench, this is far more useful. This has very fixed sizing, whereas this has a rather gradual slimming down with some quite nice and aggressive teeth. So I think this would be more practical to use, but again, I've never used either or had an instance where I needed to use this kind of wrench. The tip itself is wider on the Opry, but the tip is more centralized for, you know, scraping force, that kind of thing, on the Otacle. Obviously the cutout is significantly larger here on the Opry versus the Otacle. They are roughly the same length, very, very roughly. I think this might be just a hair longer. And thickness wise, let's get that in there, very similar actually. It's just that the Otacle has a lot of this chamfering going on. I was actually surprised when I opened this. I thought this was going to be a much slimmer, lighter version, and it is a little, it's a little of those things. And I do still like it and find it very compelling, but it is, I think, a little bit of a different tool compared to the Opry. Now, where do I think that this does well? I think this, let's be honest, the EDC community, to a very real degree, is about taking pretty pictures of things and owning nice things that make you feel good. And I think that falls into that dimension very well on this presentation side. The ruler's unobtrusive but still easily legible. You have this nice presentation plate. And overall, I just think that this is quite nice, whilst still having good ergonomics to actually use it. I've used this for some scraping, like prying tasks and occasional bottle, and it's worked just fine. So I think functionally, this is pretty much there. It does still retain that wrench, but if you use it as a lanyard hole, you're obviously going to lose that, unless you're using it as a, you know, like a lobster claw or an S-biner kind of clip, that kind of thing. I don't mind these cutouts because it's just skeletonization. This is just making the tools lighter, and if you're going to put skeletonization in a pry bar, you may as well make the cuts something that you can then use functionally, like a wrench or a 1/4 inch drive. Like, this could just be a round hole for a lanyard. You get some people nowadays complaining that they put 1/4 inch holes on everything, and that it's like the new bottle opener, perhaps. You know, it's not multi-tool if it doesn't have a bottle opener. It's not a multi-tool if it doesn't have a 1/4 inch driver. They're going to put the hole there anyway for a lanyard hole or skeletonizing purposes, so it may as well be cut into a useful shape so that even if you don't use it, it's a usable thing in some circumstances anyway. Like, I'm not convinced that were they not going to make these wrenches, those holes were not going to be there in some way, shape or form. If those holes weren't there, these would be heavier tools, which makes them slightly more problematic for everyday carry. What don't I like about this? The clip I am not thrilled about. I think aesthetically the clip is lacking a little something compared to the rest of the knife. It feels like they put a lot of design effort here, and then as soon as it gets to the back end, it's a little bit like, oops. There is some, I don't know, frill? Maybe you'd call this. Like, it gives some texture to the clip, but not in any meaningful, usable way. Other than, I guess, if you were to grab onto it when it's in the pocket. But that's not really usable. I think it's just mostly an aesthetic thing. Just a bent clip with some cold screws. this should be a deep clip. You know, the amount of pry bar you have sticking out is just a little ridiculous. And if you're putting this in an organizer slot or in a pouch or something like that, and you actually want to use the clip for retention purposes, I mean, that's as low down in the sleeve it's going to go. So I'd rather see a deep pocket clip on this. And then my only other major gripe is the ruler. Actually, I'm a person that really likes having convenient access to a ruler. I like that they put it on, you know, pretty much all multi-tools ever, because you may as well. It's not costing you anything really. It, if anything, makes the tool very slightly, ever so slightly lighter, but it meaningfully increases the utility. So why don't I like this ruler? There's no numbers. Now this isn't a problem, you can still work it out just fine. But when you take the numbers off of it, you do very much make it less of an eyeball kind of thing. Now you can argue that, you know, when you take the numbers off, you can more easily use this in a sequential manner, measuring something longer than the pry bar itself. Personally, I would like to see some numbers on here just because it's easier and quicker to eyeball. If I'm using this of all things to measure something, I'm probably out doing a task and I just needed a quick measurement. So removing the numbers is just an impediment to that. I think that that's partially because they wanted the ruler to be as unobtrusive as possible, and that's why it's just kind of lasered into this one flat edge here. You know, there's not really room for numbers here, and they might have considered it silly if you had numbers on this top ridge. I would still like to see some kind of numbering, even if it wasn't every single interval. And there's only millimeters here. Now, I don't mind that because I'm perfectly happy working in millimeters anyway, but I'm sure a lot of Americans and whatnot would like a inch option, and the Otacle actually had both. 3-inch ruler, or was that a 8-centimeter ruler? Which is another thing, you do get significantly less ruler space. But, you know, whatever. That is my only real gripes. I would like to see a better pocket clip, and I would like to see the ruler situation be a little better. You might argue, hey, but, you know, who needs a ruler? It's on there anyway. You might as well make it usable. And I wouldn't, you know, they could have at least put like inch markings on the bottom here, just so that you had a general, again, quick reference guide. I really like the concept of this inlay plate, and I really hope that one of the things that they will do in future is release different plates, because this is obviously, these are just, I want to say T6 screws. These are just easily user replaceable. So it would be nice if you could customize this and perhaps throw a brass one in, or maybe get a little crazy with a Damascus steel that doesn't have to actually hold an edge, or a Timascus, zirconium, that kind of thing. I think that would be a very compelling way to sell accessories for this tool. But overall, I'm very happy. This is not kicking this out of my rotation. It is supplementing this in my pry bar rotation. This is a much more elegant pry bar, I think, that more befits what a lot of people tend to carry, and I think this looks more at home in pictures. So I think these are a little different, but not really actively competing that much. I'm happy that I bought this. I would recommend this to anybody, but if you were looking for a pry bar, I would push you to the O-Pry just as a consideration, just because it does have some functional differences that you might appreciate. But that's just what I think. Have you seen the Otacle 2? Do you know what the Otacle 1 is? I didn't look, but I'm not familiar with the Otacle 1. Let us know in the comment section down below what you think, if you're interested, if you already have it, or if you're not going to get it and why. But I hope you've enjoyed this video. Whilst you're down there placing your comment, hit that like button if you've enjoyed it, hit that subscribe button if you're new here. We really appreciate it, and it does greatly help the channel. Until next time, I've been Paul, and I hope you the best of EDC days.